Hello today, everybody. This is Lone Paladin from ReploidProductions.com. We're coming at you with a new little segment we like to call Current Reviews. This is what we're going to be doing for current reviews. We're going to actually be setting off the side a couple of the newer games that we're going to go over them kind of briefly, and then we might come back to them later on with more in-depth once, more people have played them out of our group. Well, today I'm going to come at you guys with something that I happen to find because of a couple of my friends. If you remember any of the old school Final Fantasy games, mostly 5, you get that kind of nostalgic feel, and lately Square Enix has been trying to do stuff more along those lines. Like when they released Final Fantasy IV, the Complete Collection, they just released Final Fantasy V in a revamped version on the iOS. So, they got some stuff in the works for that. But one game really stood out, and I'm actually quite glad I picked it up. It's called Final Fantasy Dimensions. It's for iOS and Android. So if you got a smartphone, or if you got a tablet or something like that, you can play it on that. For those of you don't, it kind of sucks, but if you're actually thinking about picking up one of those things, this is a game you might want to take a look at. What this does is, Final Fantasy Dimensions actually is more along the lines of I guess I want to say a mobile game, which is what Square Enix is trying to get into nowadays. Final Fantasy Dimensions starts off in a world where there are 8 crystals, and each country kind of takes care of one crystal, or, they're just hidden around the world. And you start off with 4 people that grow up in the town called Lux, which you have your characters Sol, Aegis, Deanna, and Glaive, and they're all friends. They've grown up together for forever. Aegis is this master swordsman guy, and you get charged to go to the crystal shrine that's near Lux, and you're like, all right, well, we'll go investigate, see what's going on. Well, in the meantime, there's the main evildoers of the entire game is called the Empire of Avalon. And they start off by picking up these 4 kids that are in this, basically it's like the Final Fantasy version of Siberia. Frozen wasteland, no escape, it's surrounded by mountains, and it's basically, well, yeah, you can run off, you're gonna die, but yeah, sure, go have fun with that. So I pick up these kids. Their names are Noct, Alba, Dusk, and Sarah. Alba and Dusk are actually twins, but, you can find this stuff out later on. Anyways, they go to try and steal the crystal because that's what they're ordered to do by the Empire, that or get executed. Kind of got your hands in a little bit of a tight spot there. So, once they finally break into the crystal chamber, they meet up with Sol's group as they're getting their asses whooped by the guardian beast of the crystal. Well, Noct's group attempts to go fight them, or fight the beast, gets their asses whooped, and then the crystal explodes. And then it rends the world in half. You got the light side and then the dark side. Now, the real big kicker is, when I started playing this, I was like, alright, so this is going to be my light side team, Sol's entire party, and this is going to be my dark side team, most likely. This is going to be Noct's team. Okay, so it's I'm going to have these 4 people over here, these 4 people over here. Alright, I got this. Because I got forewarned that, I'm going to have 2 parties to control throughout the game. Well, the big thing is, half the teams on each side get thrown over to the other side, and there's a lot of distrust between them in the very beginning. But they eventually start, working things out. So, one of the coolest things about this game, other than, you have an auto battle feature, which is kind of nice. Everything is just touch screen, and it feels pretty comfortable. It's pretty easy to use. Once you get the flow of battles and stuff, you'll have it down to a science pretty quick and just blaze right through the game. But one of the coolest things was you actually get a job system in this one, which is very reminiscent of Final Fantasy V. There's slight differences, though, because you do have the 2 different parties. Each party has their own specific grouping of special jobs that they're allowed to have, whereas the other party doesn't. As you progress through the game with the Light Warriors, you'll get jobs like Bard, Dragoon, Memorist, which is very difficult to explain, actually. It's a different concept. You'd actually have to look it up or just play the game yourself and I'll explain it. And Paladin, and then finally you get the Seer. And then on the other side, you have the Dark Warriors that get Dancer, Ninja, a couple other ones too, like Magus for like their ultimate black magic users. And as I said, just take a look at it, do some research on your own. But I just wanted to throw this out here because it's an interesting game. It's starting to kind of revitalize the series itself. It's giving it something new instead of, you know, we're going to have you walk down a hallway that looks freaking amazing for like 30 freaking hours. FYI, I'm not knocking 13. I actually enjoyed 13. It still kind of sucked because I did have to walk down the hallway for like 30 hours. Not a bad game though. So don't try and say I hate on 13. But, you know, they're trying to push it into like a mobile market again. You know, they're trying to branch out. They're also trying to help bring back some of the retro gamers that really don't like anything that's of the newer stuff. I know plenty of people that actually stopped playing Final Fantasy after Final Fantasy VI because they didn't like the way 7 looked. Or they thought it was kind of going against, you know, their nostalgia. And they're like, no, we're not doing this. And I know a couple people that stopped playing after 10 because they just thought it was going downhill from there. So if you want a good experience, right now it's $20 on the app market for Google Play, and I'm pretty sure it might still be about $20 on the iStore. I'm not for sure because I don't own an iPhone or an iPod or anything like that. So you might want to take a look at that. But in truth, I'm at the end of the game right now. I've had a lot of fun with it. I've sunk at least 50, 55 hours into it, and I'm still not finished. I still have all the jobs to go and grind out and max out. I still have a couple side quests to do. So if you're looking for a fun game that you can play on the go, I'd actually have to say this is a pretty good game. If I had to give it a rating at the current moment, even though I would like to do a more in-depth thing with the rest of the guys once they've got a chance to play it, because I know I actually conned Proto Guy into trying it out, and he just started to love it. But I'd actually have to give this a 4.5 out of 5, I think, for this one. It's not bad at all. It's got a lot of great things to it. One of the biggest problems, though, that we noticed was you spend what feels like a little bit too much time with the Light Warriors. So that way when you finally get control of the Dark Warriors back, you feel a lot weaker. But that's because you haven't had a chance to actually build them up the way you've been building up the Light Warriors. It's kind of an thing that you're just going to have to get used to because you're used to hitting something really hard, and then you're like, this part of the chapter is done. Go over to this side. And you're like, all right, let's go whooping. Oh, that's right. I got to grind you guys. Let's do this. And then in translation, they really, really didn't pay attention to how they were doing the word wraps. That was the other big gripe, but it's pretty easy to get past after a little while. So this has been Lone Paladin from ReploidProductions.com. Stay tuned for another episode.